Now let's start talking about the power tools as far as the saws go. All right, this is your standard framing saw. All right, we have ones that are worm drive. We have ones that are just the standard little motors, but it depends on what you want to do. We prefer to use this, all right, because it serves the purpose and it holds up against the student's abuse. All right, so like everything else that you're going to need to know is know the parts. If you don't know what you're talking about with the parts and you can't explain them, then you can't operate the equipment properly. All right. But before we get into that, let's look at some of the blades that we have here. Now, your book was talking to you about different types of blades. All right, we're not going to go through all of them, but this one is for your framing, basic construction. Understand this is a 24-inch or 24-tooth saw. That doesn't mean per inch. That just means that there's 24 teeth on this blade. And it's carbide. Trust me, buy the carbide. Okay? But this is for general purpose, cutting 2x4s and stuff like that. This is another general purpose, different style, you know. It's just like buying brakes for cars, you know, the drums and discs. This has holes all around it so that the air can flow through there to keep the blade cool. Hey, you know, whatever. But again, the more teeth, the finer the cut. Then we have our Masonary Cut Blade. I personally would not use this saw to do that. You can if you're doing just small amounts of work. All right, like off of bricks or something like that, or wanting to cut maybe nothing more than an inch of that the stonework, light work, because this, even though it's a sealed bearing system, it really, you know, there's going to be a lot of dust stuff flying on this. All right, and you really don't want to ruin your saw that way. But it is designed for it, so therefore, let her go. Check your cord, make sure that it's functional. We have our hand grips, a pistol grip. We got our trigger. We have our blade guide handle, and again, remember, if it doesn't do that, you don't use it. All right? It's designed to flip back. So you always want to check that type of stuff out prior to going using the blade. You also notice, look at the way the teeth are on the blade. They're pointing up because it rotates in the upward position. All right? It doesn't come down cutting. It pulls up on the material. Then we have our depth gauge. All right, and I don't want to see somebody sitting there slamming on this or using a tool to hammer it down. All right, this operates the base plate. All right, so you can get very small cut, depth cuts, or you can use it all the way forward to your standard 2 3/4 inch. All right. You want to be sure that that operates. All right. For purposes right now, we're just going to keep it at the highest depth. Then, up front, we have our angle, or our bevel cut, excuse me. All right. Now, that will just move back and forth to whatever degree that you wish to cut. All right. We always want to keep it on 90. And there's a little guide here that shows you that you're on 0. All right? If it's something about quality work and you want to make sure that that blade isn't bent or the tool isn't off, Open that up, set it at 0, and then take your speed square and lay it on there and see if it's square and there's no light coming through it. All right. If you're so lucky to have to change the blade, we do have the tools in the tool crib. It'll fit. Now remember that on here it shows you how to tighten and how to loosen. All right. But remember, this doesn't have like a locking blade here. All right. So what we usually do is you pull back this, and with a 2x4 in the vise, shove the blade into the 2x4, then loosen it. All right. The same thing when you go to tighten it. All right. But when it comes time to change a blade, if you have questions, let us know and we'll help you out. Okay. The other thing I want to show you that I think is vital is look here, and you're going to see a two bevels or two angular cuts. So now we have these two cutaway pieces in the metal base plate. Saws normally come in different thicknesses, all right? You see that this is really paper thin. It's a 3/16 blade, all right? They also come in an 1/8" blade, all right? Nope, don't have one here, but you need to know that before you're cutting your lumber, because this saw was designed for the 1/8" blade. If you got a thinner blade, then you need to make a little Kentucky windage, let's say, out of it. All right. If we are putting our line right on this cut space right here, the center line of our lumber that we want to cut, it's going to cut off that line. All right. Something to think about. If I move over to this side, all right, then it's going to leave that line there, all right? If I move over to here, it's going to remove the line plus some of your final wood. And this comes into play because you're going to need to cut exactly 6 3/4 inches or something to that effect. All right. This notch over here is used when you want to do bevel cuts. All right. So always understand what you're trying to do and how to use the tool. The base plate, take good care of it. Be sure everything's tight prior to using the tool. Now, because it gets so loud when I try to use this, you're just going to have to follow along with me here. All right. You're going to be working off of sawhorses, and we're going to get to that. All right. But for right now, I'm going to show you how to use the tool on a piece of standard 2x4. And your situation, it may be a piece of plywood or 2x6. It doesn't matter. Okay? We're not overly concerned about that. Again, hearing protection. Our gloves. Our eyewear is on. And typically when you're out there, don't take it off. So, now, you notice that you're going to have a speed square and pencil. Just mark off 3 or 4 inches. It doesn't really matter. Unless the instructor states that there's supposed to be a specific amount cut off. All right? So Be aware of that. So we plug it in our equipment. Again, my trigger finger is up out of the way. All right. I want to check what I'm trying to get cut. Again, you never put the blade into the wood. So in this case, take my speed square, put it up against there, and for training purposes, I'm just marking a mark. In your case, it's going to be a situation where they may tell you exactly what length they want that cut to. All right. The other thing is I'm going to mark my waist end. So that becomes crucial when you're working with the saw. This I need to have. This line I want to make disappear, but I don't want to go over onto my good wood either. So I want to stay to the right of my line a little bit. Now you're going to be doing this on sawhorses. I'm just doing this because it's easier for the filming purpose. All right. So now we bring this up, and if you notice what I'm talking about, all right, my work is right on that line. Because of the size of blade I have, I can do that. Okay. So again, work back. Most people that are in the trades will watch the blade on the line. But remember, if you start twisting this, it's going to kick back on you. So be very careful about how you go about doing this. All right? The shoe plate, you want fully on there. The other thing that I want to make reference to is the shoe plate and the machinery, as often as possible, should be on the good wood. All right? Not on the waste wood. This case, I'm going to have it on the waste wood. That's just because of our situation here. But when you go to cut yours, you want this saw to be on the good wood. All right? So line it up, and you'll get an idea of looking at the blade. And I want you to do this several times in this exercise, because I want you to watch the blade. I want you to cut with the line. There's different variations of how you want to do this. All right? Again, any saw needs to be fully RPM'd up prior to doing anything. Put your hearing protection on. Full RPM. Line up that blade. You only have one chance to cut this. So as you're moving through this piece of wood, when your hand is up here, the guard is going to start coming forward. What you need to be aware of is keep your arm out of the way of the guard. Now the reason that you want that base plate on the good wood is if you're not used to using the tool, the weight of this is going off with the waste wood and you're going to have a slight angle. All right? Again, cut as often as you need, as many as you need to understand it. Use different types of wood. Remember, you're going to have sawhorses with vices, or C-clamps, excuse me. Use those, use different types of wood, different lengths, so you get the feel of that saw. All right?